It's Ken Harbaugh with the MeidasTouch Network. Last Sunday, Donald Trump posted this, an AI image of himself as Jesus Christ. And then he did something he almost never does. He deleted it, which says a lot. This is a man, after all, who posted that Rob Reiner's murder was because of Trump derangement syndrome. That post is still up. Trump has done a lot of things that didn't bother his self-professed Christian base. And I say self-professed because that base has very little in common with what Jesus actually taught. With every one of Trump's offensive posts, there's usually a rush to explain or even defend it. From the depiction of Barack and Michelle Obama as apes to the AI image of himself as the Pope. Each time, the self-professed Christians of the MAGA right are able to look the other way. But now, with this latest post, something seems to have cracked. Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, and Alex Jones are floating the idea, some more directly than others, that Trump might be the Antichrist, or at the very least under demonic influences. Here's why that matters beyond the raw entertainment value. In the conspiratorial ecosystem that these people built and now inhabit, calling someone the Antichrist is not a throwaway insult. It is a theologically precise accusation about a figure foretold by the Bible who demands absolute loyalty, tramples every covenant that constrains him, and enriches himself through plunder, deceiving followers with spectacle while destroying anyone who refuses to worship him. Once an idea like that about Trump starts circulating on Truth Social and in the prophecy networks, it does not stay contained. It becomes a brainworm. And brainworms, as RFK can attest, are the one thing MAGA has not figured out how to get rid of. So while a video depicting a former president and his wife as apes triggers no moral emergency, while Trump casting himself as the Pope draws chuckles from Christian nationalists, an AI-generated image of Jesus crosses the line. That tells you exactly where this movement's actual theology begins and ends, and how little it has to do with the man from Nazareth who said the meek would inherit the earth. I wanted to talk to someone who understands the power of Christian symbolism on the religious right, and who has studied depictions of the Antichrist. Kristin Du Mez is a historian at Calvin University and the author of Jesus and John Wayne, an essential text for understanding how we got here. Her new book, Live, Laugh, Love, The Secret History of White Christian Women and the World They Made, is out on September 15th. Here's our conversation. Kristin, thank you so much for joining us today. Are we approaching a jump the shark moment for the Trump administration? I mean, it has been astonishing how much he has been able to get away with his evangelical base. The list of things that they have rushed to his defense over, it could fill your next book. But something appears to have cracked is the dam breaking when you have Tucker and Megyn and even Nick Fuentes, some of the worst figures on the right, but long his biggest supporters, actually calling him the Antichrist or suggesting it as Tucker just did. That feels like a change.
Yeah, it's how many sharks do you have to jump is the question. So I'm of two minds here. Yes, it does feel like something may be shifting, but with some qualifications. Because you're right. I mean, he has done so much that his Christian base has stood behind him, given him a pass for, so much. And so what is it about a social media post depicting himself as Jesus or a doctor, as the case may be, in all seriousness, or a joke, depending on who you listen to. What is it about this post that seems to have gone just a step too far? I think the Antichrist comparison, that's gaining some real traction over on Truth Social, with his kind of rank and file supporters. He crossed the line here. I'm a bit more cynical when it comes to his more influential supporters. What I see there is a lot of performative critique and nothing of substance, right? So what I see is a lot of people trying to distance themselves because they know in Christian spaces, this did cross the line. So they want to distance themselves from that blasphemy and from allegations that they didn't say anything. But have I seen any one of the people who have been consistently behind him, really saying, oh my gosh, what have we done? No. I see a lot of excuses.
Is this more about mollifying an agitated and animated Christian right? Well, maybe this is one and the same, or is it more about 2028? Especially when you see folks like Tucker, who is smart enough to know that there is going to be life after Trump, and it feels like people are positioning themselves.
Yeah. At the popular level, I think there may be some genuine aversion, but I think there's a lot of positioning. And with Tucker, the rifts have already been there. And I'm sure you're watching that as well. Rifts in the right, more broadly, the Christian right. These fissures have really opened up since Charlie Kirk's death. And so those divisions were already there. This post didn't cause any further division, right? So, the positioning is all happening kind of on top of that deeper rift within the movement. And they have been, if you're listening into these guys, they've been kind of trying to control the damage for a year now. Or no, I guess we're not. Yes, I don't know. For months now, right? Trying to contain the division, saying, "Hey guys, we are this close to totally capturing this country. Let's not divide amongst ourselves." But that's exactly what's been happening. So how does that apply to this particular post? What I'm seeing is a lot of, again, among his Christian supporters, a lot of excuses. And so if you look a little bit more closely at those critical posts, you'll see a lot of, initially, allegedly he posted it, right? So he probably didn't even do it. It was somebody around him. And then when that was no longer tenable, then it was, he does some unwise things, or let's really pray for him. Or, he didn't really understand what this was, or he just has a sense of humor. Give the guy a pass. And so again, this kind of plausible deniability of like distancing. Hey, I critique the guy. I'm still, Orthodox Christian and all, but, grace abounds when it comes to President Trump.
So the dam isn't quite cracking. They are figuring out ways to shore it up, at least when it comes to his most ardent supporters and this particular post.
Yeah, what I will say, though, is that they look really stupid right now. And that's important, right? That is, okay. That's an important thing to know. It's a kind of, the emperor has no clothes moment. And so, as you know, the left or, the middle or anybody who's not MAGA is having a field day with this, and rightly so. These are the very Christians, like Christian nationalists, who have floated the idea of reinstating or of instating blasphemy laws, which punish something like this potentially all the way up to, with the death penalty, right? So there's, this is really a moment to hold up in the faces of the Christian right, their own hypocrisy. And as a result, you're seeing a lot of Christian influencers, Christian leaders, right, end up having to still kind of hold the bag here. And those who are still coming to his defense, saying he didn't mean it, saying he was confused, give the guy a pass, right? That is going to haunt them. So if something is shifting, I think it is, they are now on the defense.
If you have an active online presence, and if you're listening to this show, you probably do, your personal information is almost certainly sitting on data broker websites right now. Your address, your phone number, your family members' names, all of it available to anyone who looks. In the current political climate, that's not just an inconvenience, it's a genuine security risk. Bad actors, online partisans, people who don't like what you say or who you are, they use that data to target people. It happens to public figures, civil servants, and even ordinary citizens who have the nerve to post an opinion online. Delete Me removes your personal information from hundreds of data broker sites and keeps it off. The New York Times Wirecutter named them their top pick for data removal services. Take control of your data and keep your private life private by signing up for Delete Me. Now, at a special discount for our listeners, get 20% off your Delete Me plan when you go to joindeleteme.com/Ken and use promo code Ken at checkout. The only way to get 20% off is to go to joindeleteme.com/Ken and enter code Ken at checkout. That's joindeleteme.com/Ken, code Ken. It's Ken Harbaugh. Quick break to let everyone know that the Meidas Studios and Valor Media Network original short film, Drone Hunters of Kherson, will have 2 in-person screenings in Washington, D.C. on April 21st and 23rd. I'll be there as part of a panel discussion afterwards that includes members of Congress and other experts. This is a free event open to the public, but register soon because spots are going fast. The RSVP link is in the notes below. Here's the trailer for Drone Hunters of Kherson.
The contest between who gets who first. Do they get the drone, or does the drone get them? We're that close to the front. There's a rubble everywhere, but people are still surviving. We just got an alert that there is a wave of 12 Shaheeds flying in over the Black Sea. Go there! That's the amazing thing about this war. It's a blend of trench warfare and Terminator.
Does the conflict with the Pope factor in here at all? And I really want you to help this audience understand how massive the schism is between Catholic Americans and the Christian nationalists who are really at the core of Trump's base. It's almost as if he doesn't worry about offending Catholics because it's almost worth it.
Yeah, it gets a little tricky when you look at Catholic voters, especially white Catholic voters. In fact, there is a strong contingency of Trump voters within the white Catholic community. But I think when I see his kind of fight with the Pope there, I don't see religious strategy first and foremost. I just see it as Trump being Trump, right? Trump's ego is massive. And he really has no concept, nor do I think he has the ability to even fathom being a genuine religious adherent, right? Submitting yourself to a divine being who has more power than you. And so he sees the Pope not as the representative of God, as Christ's vicar, but as competition. And he sees himself as God's representative. He has been told that time and again by his Christian base, particularly by his spiritual advisor, Paula White, by those in the charismatic tradition, but more broadly, he's God's anointed one. And so here comes the Pope. Who does he think he is? Right, dictating what Christians, or in this case, Catholics, should believe. And so I really think it was a more visceral reaction there of, how dare you? I'm going to trash you and bully you, because that's what he does to everybody who challenges his power.
Well, that's an really interesting observation that the Protestants don't have a Pope-like figure except in Trump, whereas Catholics, even MAGA Catholics, at least have this tension.
Right. That is a difference because, and the more traditionalist, the Catholic, the more they ought to be submitting themselves to the authority of the Pope, who represents this, 2,000-year-old tradition. In fact, within Catholic MAGA factions, you have for years had a really strong resistance, not just to Pope Leo, but before him to Pope Francis, right? And so there is not unity within American Catholicism. Again, the irony is that those who are most rejecting the Pope's authority are those who would want to claim the mantle of, trad Catholics or traditional Catholics. But they don't want to embrace the traditional Catholic teachings on war, immigration, social justice, right? They want to reject that part, but still call themselves traditionalists.
There was a preview for this most recent outrageous post by the president depicting himself as Jesus, and it was his reposting a meme of him as the Pope. Did you track the blowback to that? Because it wasn't nearly as visceral. You didn't have the defections that you're seeing now, even the rhetorical defections. Again, some insight into just how much more forgiving Christian nationalists are of attacks on Catholics.
No, you're absolutely right. There are a lot of the Protestants at that point, the Protestant, Christian nationalist supporters were totally cool with that.
Yeah.
And they took that as an opportunity to kind of trash the Pope, trash the authority of Catholicism, which, Protestants rejected hundreds of years ago. And so they were, many of them were fine with that. So yes, there is a real difference here. He's presenting himself not as a Pope, not as God's anointed, which they're totally cool with that, but presenting himself as Jesus Christ. But there's, I feel honestly a little bit bad for Trump here because, I get it, right? He has been told by his Christian supporters, by his evangelical charismatic supporters for almost a decade now that he is God's anointed. He has been told that he is their savior. He has depicted himself as the savior of Christianity, the savior of Christian America. How was he to know that there was this little line he wasn't supposed to cross, which was to fully embrace that Christ mantle, right? They kind of set him up for it.
As a scholar of eschatology, can you take us out with just a primer on some of the features of the Antichrist and the idea that, this person is going to look like the anointed initially? Let's feed this beast a little bit, because I love the argument that the right is having about whether or not Donald Trump might actually be the Antichrist. What are they pointing to?
Right. The Antichrist is going to come and deceive millions into, thinking that he is the Christ, is going to unite the world. This is going to be a global movement. And we see the rise of, global authoritarianism here. And he is just going to deceive God's people in astonishing numbers. And so honestly, and many critics have been saying this for years, you all are the people who have been, promoting this Antichrist thing as a, part of your theology. And here he is. And you all have your red hats on.
Indeed. I never equated that with the mark of the beast, but there are so many things the Alex Joneses of the world could, do something with here. I am not that kind of believer, but let them have it, right? Okay, Kristin, thanks so much. Can you please tell us about your upcoming book? I can't wait for it to come out, but the cover's done. I guess the tour has got to start soon. Give us a preview.
Yeah. So Live, Laugh, Love, The Secret History of White Christian Women and the World They Made. It's about things like Hallmark movies and mommy bloggers and Christian romance novels and people like Kristi Noem and Carolyn Levitt. And it's ultimately about systems of manipulation and control that have brought us to where we are now.
And pre-orders are open, right?
Pre-orders, it's available anywhere that sells books. You can pre-order. It will be released September 15, and I will be touring the country this fall.
We're going to put the bookshop.org link below. I know the Amazon pre-orders matter more than anything, but
no, let's do bookshop. Let's do
bookshop.org. Thanks, Kristin, as always.
Thank you.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.